This week on Money Matters, topping the headlines again is China and the aftermath of its yuan devaluation. Following the recent market rout, Beijing's latest move has more people worried. Rising from the ashes, Korea's economy has advanced at lightning speed over the decades. What are some of its most iconic products looking back in numbers? And getting food to your door has become easier than ever with a rise in smartphone apps and a booming delivery market that brings innovation with it. What stories matter in Asia? We'll look at the changing landscape of business in Korea and the rest of Asia on Money Matters. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Il-sun. Thanks for joining us once again. China's devaluation of the yuan last week rattled the global financial market. Neighboring countries like Korea and other emerging economies rushed to monitor the situation. We'll have more on China later, but let's first look at other stories from the week with Arirang.
Thank you, Il-sun. I'll start you off with some of the top headlines from around Asia. Korea's Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan says without labor reforms, the country will not be able to join the ranks of advanced economies, highlighting the need to implement changes in the workforce. This was according to an interview with Seoul's Yonhap news agency, in which he emphasized the need to take a two-pronged approach, both on supply and demand. The minister said he will push to have the wage peak system adopted by all public institutes by year-end and introduce gradual measures within the public sector so that wages are based on productivity. He added the best way to push through with the reforms is to build up consensus among workers, companies, and the government. And SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won, who received a presidential pardon last week for the 4-year sentence he was serving on embezzlement, has returned to work. Breaking expectations that it would take some time for the chairman to ease back into his daily routine, Choi visited the office immediately upon his release. Shortly after his return, industry sources reported that SK will move to invest roughly 25 to 33 billion US dollars in semiconductor production lines by the year 2020. The chairman is scheduled to attend the groundbreaking ceremony of a new chip line next month, where it's speculated he will make an announcement on investments for the group's memory chip producing arm, SK Hynix. The family feud over succession at Lotte may be inching towards an end as shareholders of Lotte Holdings, the de facto holding company of Lotte Group, voted in favor of reform agendas proposed by the current chairman, Shin Dong-bin. Dong-bin is a second son of founder Shin Gyok-ho and is seen as having gained the upper hand against his older brother Dong-ju, who was earlier removed from his post in Tokyo. The younger Shin has vowed to carry out reforms within Korea's 5th largest conglomerate, and Lotte Holdings announced that shareholders would like to see him manage the group in a more stable and transparent manner. It looks like September will be an important month for Korea and other emerging economies, with more projections that the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise its funds rate sooner than later. Concerns are mounting that in the face of weakening currencies in emerging markets on the back of cheap commodity prices and lingering volatility from China's yuan devaluation, it could further spark instability. Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said uncertainties in China and the instability of emerging countries will continue to present risks to the Korean economy.
The state of China's economy has been at the center of attention for weeks now, with the concerns growing over its weaker economic indicators and uncertainties in its financial market. Beijing has been stepping in, raising further worries that conditions may be worse than suggested. We'll get a close look at where the world's second-largest economy stands. A surprise announcement from the People's Bank of China roiled the markets last week. Following its devaluation of the yuan by 1.9% last Tuesday, the PBOC let the currency slide by another 1.6% the next day and 1.11% the following day. This was the largest drop in its currency since 1994. This spun markets into confusion, causing the so-called second China shock following its market rout last month. Some have called it a red flag for China's economy.
최근 위안화 약세 같은 경우에도 사실 수출 측면에서의 어떤 부진보다는 이 국내의 어떤 디플레 우려를 완화시키기 위한 목적이 좀 크지 않았나 이렇게 저희는 좀 평가를 하고 있고요. 그만큼 중국이 2011년 이후에 여전히 경기가 회복되지 못한 채 계속해서 둔화 국면에 있으면서 어떤 시장과 경제에 있어서의 피로가 굉장히 좀 커졌다라고 보고 있습니다.
Through this recent devaluation, Beijing is thought to be going after two goals. One is lifting the economy, and the other is getting the yuan to be a more globally recognized currency reserve asset. Beijing says the adjustment was made to further reflect market mechanisms in its foreign exchange. But with its outbound shipments dipping by nearly 9% on year in July, speculation is also high that it's moving to gain export competitiveness.
中国经济的要因呢，主要是3个，一个是投资，还有是消费，还有是输出出口。但是呢，现在呢，投资和消费呢都是下滑的趋势。民间企业的投资，它俩的关系能不能就是互补，或者是能不能保持比较稳定的增长的趋势？
Emerging economies already struggling with the sinking commodity prices were rattled by the yuan, with the stocks plunging and currencies reaching fresh lows. The move from China has also raised questions on whether the US Federal Reserve and Bank of England will alter the time frame for a hike in key interest rates. China has seen explosive growth over the years, but the pace has been slowing since 2012. The country's statistics office said its GDP expanded by 7% in the first half of this year. The IMF and other economists put this year's growth figure at around 6.8%. Following reforms to open up the country in 1978, China has seen impressive growth. Much of it is being driven by state investment in companies and real estate and attracting foreign investments. But experts point out that this growth model may be reaching its limits.
地方政府的债务呢，现在大概是17兆左右。那么现在这个债务呢，现在拖累中国政府的这种投资，所以呢，现在投资的下降趋势比较明显。那么这个中央政府怎么解决地方政府的这个债务呢，是一个很大的课题。
I'm at Incheon Newport, considered a hub of distribution in Northeast Asia. When it comes to China, it makes up roughly a quarter of Korea's exports, being its largest trade partner. So one of the areas China's slowing demand has been seen in is Korea's slag exports to its neighboring countries. Outbound shipments last year recorded negative growth, and so far this year, it recorded steeper -2.4%. Facing such green prospects, a shakeup in exports market for Seoul looks inevitable. The Bank of Korea is closely monitoring the situation.
중국의 경기 불확실성 등이 우리 경제가 안고 있는 가장 큰 리스크로 저희들은 생각을 하고 있습니다.
With a cheap yen and a weak yuan, Korea may face more hurdles in its key exports in automobiles, steel, electronics, and petrochemicals.
앞으로 우리 같은 경우에는 통화를 절하시키기 위해서 최종적으로 금리 인하 카드를 어느 정도 확보해야 되지 않나 그렇게 보여지고요. 특히 우리 입장에서는 중국의 그 가격 경쟁력을 갖춘 이런 제조업 부분들이 급속히 등장하는 것을 어느 정도 예방하기 위해서 우리도 새로운 성장 동력 그리고 새로운 산업들 육성이 어느 때보다 시급하지 않나 보여집니다.
사실은 내수를 살리기 위한 여러 가지 정책들이 필요하고요. 물론 이제 최근에 정부에서 뭐 노동개혁이라든가 여러 가지 개혁 정책을 좀 하고 있긴 합니다만은 전체적으로 봤을 때 그러한 구조개혁 노력과 함께 경기를 살리기 위한 재정적인 노력이 좀 더 필요한 것 같습니다.
There are largely two schools of thought on China's economy. One is that Beijing will continue to drive growth through strong intervention and stimulus measures. And the other is that it's simply running out of ammunition. Making up such an important part of the global economy, all eyes will continue to stay on China as long as uncertainties linger.
Now, this year marks 70 years since Korea was liberated from Japan's colonial rule. And over the decades, the country has made leaps and strides to get to where it is today. On this week's In Numbers, we'll be taking a look at some of the stepping stones laid by Korea's economic pioneers. Now, since its independence in 1945, Korea has grown to a country with a GDP of $1.3 trillion and per capita income of 28,000. It has seen growth at one of the fastest rates in modern history. But where did all of that start? Well, let's first go back to 1957, the establishment of Hanguk Nylon, Korea's first nylon producer. The company became one of the first exporters, producing just 1% of the world's nylon by 1970. But by 1993, it was the fifth largest exporter of nylon in the world. The next pillar to take hold came in 1963 with the invention of Pakkasin. It was originally sold in pharmacies as an herbal tonic, but has since become one of the most iconic beverages and a favorite of students, with over 18.9 billion bottles sold in Korea and around the world. Now, speaking of students, every student, both young and old, in Korea is familiar with the classic black and white Monami 153 ballpoint pen. First created in 1964, it was Korea's first pen with ink contained in the barrel. Now, over 3.6 billion 153 pens have since been sold, and it's available in 18 different countries worldwide. Next, in 1966, Gold Star released Korea's first domestically produced black and white TV. Now, this company would later become LG Electronics, one of the world's leaders in TV manufacturing and other electronic goods. And in 1971, Korea Yakult began selling little probiotic yogurt beverages that were an instant hit. The company has gone on to become one of Korea's biggest food companies, producing products such as instant ramen and other dairy beverages. And now Choco Pies, one of Korea's most well-known snacks. They were first released in 1974 by snack company Tongyang, which is now Orion. It has since become a marshmallow and biscuit snack enjoyed worldwide, exported to 60 countries with its biggest fans in China and Vietnam. And the year after that, Hyundai rolled out its Pony. Now, the Pony was produced until 1985 and is considered one of Korea's most important cars, paving the way for growth in the industry. Now, another market currently thriving in Korea is cosmetics, which can be traced back to a major brand which first made its mark in 1997. Poroasu has grown to be a globally recognized luxury brand that continues to expand every day. And now to another recent mega achiever, Kakao Talk, a free messenger application. In just 5 years, it has grown to become the world's most frequently visited app. The company is estimated to have raked in $319 million in revenue last year. And last but certainly not least, from producing its first of black and white TVs in 1966, Korea has gone on to create the world's first OLED TV and now sells the best in quality with thin screens and displays like never seen before. Well, that wraps up today's In Numbers, and whether you're watching on an OLED TV or not, stick around for more stories taking a closer look at the economic colors of Korea.
Trends in Beijing evolve rapidly by the day. We have some of the most interesting stories lined up from around the world. Let's get a close look at what they are.
Last week, China's State Council announced 26 measures to encourage tourism and consumption. And amongst those is a plan to create 1,000 new camping sites by the year 2020. The idea is to open these new vehicle camping sites along the Silk Road and Yangtze River in an attempt to boost China's tourism industry. But what does that mean for Korea? Well, sales in China's automobile industry has been on the decline, but with the possibility of new demand for outdoor activities like camping, Korean companies could find new opportunities for growth, especially in sports utility vehicles. Not only that, camping has quickly grown into an expansive market here in Korea, and those Korean-produced products could be flown into China's market. Companies here are sure to start heading in that direction as more Chinese consumers jump into the field of camping. What's becoming the slowest economic growth for China over the past 25 years is showing its impact on just about every aspect of the country's economy, including at its largest online retailer, Alibaba. Just last week, Alibaba Group Holdings saw its stock slide to $73.38 per share. Compared to the peak of $120, that's a nosedive. The Wall Street Journal says much of this has to do with the dark clouds looming over China's economy and the 3-year low it posted in sales in the previous quarter. With this, founder Jack Ma has seen $750 million in market cap disappear overnight. Earlier this year, Alibaba's net profit was said to have doubled from the same time last year, but that was due to a large one-time deal. And putting that deal aside, there was actually no net profit. While its share prices are still above the IPO mark, Alibaba is expressing concern as the online retailer looks to continue on the path downwards. And what's been dubbed the Great Rotation is now making more of a presence this year than when it first started about a year ago. According to an article from CNN Money, the Great Rotation refers to an exodus of investors now seen leaving U.S. equities and going to markets with seemingly more potential. In particular, Europe and Japan are a couple of the favorites. One reason is said to be that investors are flocking to countries with more accommodating central banks, and for now, many of those banks lie overseas. With the U.S. Federal Reserve poised to raise its base rate at the near future, experts predict prospects will dim for big growth in corporate earnings in America, and instead offer a gain of stocks in Japan and Europe. This is on expectations that the stronger dollar will have a positive effect on exports from Japan and Europe, leading to more profits for companies operating out of those markets. And it seems that platinum sales have taken the place of gold in Japan. Ahead of the U.S. interest rate hike set to take place later this year, gold prices have tumbled to record lows. More and more people are finding gold to be a risky investment. And after the hike, experts also predict that the dollar will strengthen while the price of gold further drops. So other precious metals such as palladium and platinum are looking increasingly attractive. Platinum was up just about $1,000 a troy ounce. That's half its record price seen in August of 2011. But despite that, the scarcity of it may lead to a shortage in supply worldwide. One company in Japan, selling platinum bars, saw demand jump by 32 times on year, and sales last month mounted to roughly 3 times the monthly average. Although known as a mostly tax-free land, things might change for the UAE. The IMF has suggested the UAE take on a corporate income tax system and also implement a new vehicle excise tax in order to offset the predicted $42 billion deficit expected to result from this year's beef oil exports. As of late, no start date has been named. Many are still skeptical as to whether the change to what some see as the reason for the country's success so far will be beneficial. But for now, the IMF believes that diversifying the nation's revenue stream is vital to the future of the economy. And that brings today's Bits and Biz to an end. Stay tuned for more interesting insight.
In Korea, you can get almost anything delivered with just a quick phone call. Many restaurants offer food delivery anytime and any place, and customers frequently make use of this service. Korea's industry is gaining a reputation overseas as well, and it continues to evolve. So Ms. Arirang is here to tell us more. So we're seeing some big changes.
Absolutely, and the biggest change is that people are increasingly making their orders not through phone calls, but through mobile applications. Now, one Japanese venture capital firm valued the Korean food delivery market at around $10 billion, making it the third largest, behind that in the States and the EU. So I wanted to look into how much of this $10 billion market is covered by food delivery apps and where it's headed. Up until the 80s, the only goods you could easily get delivered through phone orders were milk and Chinese food. In the 90s, food delivery became more widespread, with options like fried chicken, pizza, and other popular nighttime snacks being delivered anywhere around the clock. Then in the early 2000s, fast food franchises also jumped on the bandwagon, further expanding the food delivery market. In the next 10 years, businesses started rolling out smartphone delivery apps, and the number of users has been on a gradual rise.
편한 것 같아요. 주문을 전화로 안 해도 되고 어플로 바로 통해서 주문할 수 있어요.
저는 보통 종이 그걸 보고 이용을 하다가 요즘에는 배달 어플이 있으니까 사용자들 그 리뷰도 볼 수 있고 편리하게 많이 이용하고 있어요.
Nowadays, a simple search for delivery apps will pull up dozens of listings. Many of these apps are downloaded more than 10,000 times a day. In the past, you had to dig around and find flyers to call and order your food. But nowadays, with these delivery apps, you can quickly bring up a list of all restaurants within a 1-kilometer radius. With a few taps, you can quickly order your food, and the restaurant owners benefit from landing more customers. It usually takes around 20 to 30 minutes for the food to arrive. By ordering through an app, you can save 3 to 4 minutes that you would spend on placing the order through a call. And there's also the option of paying through the app if you don't have cash on hand. There are also more advanced apps that offer specialty dishes like hot stews and raw fish pair, previously only available at sit-in restaurants. In line with evolving consumer demands, delivery services are advancing rapidly as well.
쉽게 시켜 먹을 수 없는 탕 종류나 국 종류, 그런 신선식품들도 집에서 드실 수 있는 장점이 있습니다. 리뷰 같은 거 저희들이 확인을 해보면은 이런 음식도 집에서 먹을 수 있다, 너무 좋다.
Nearly 40 million Koreans have food delivery apps installed on their smartphones, and more than 5 million place orders on it each month. The 3 main delivery apps in Korea are Delivery Nation, Yogiyo, and Baedaltong, which together account for 90% of the market. Some of them have recently abolished or are in the process of lowering commission fees charged to shop owners, further increasing their appeal to both customers and food outlets. The current market leader is Delivery Nation, with an accumulated $19 million downloads so far and 5 million orders each month. The company posts an annual revenue of roughly $26 million.
We know that people want to order all kinds of food, and so our vision has always been, how do we allow people to order anything that's delicious through our app? So we have been launching new businesses such as grocery, so bread, banchan, fruits, juices.
The food delivery market in Korea is estimated to stand at over $8.5 billion. Around 200,000 restaurants deliver their food, and the advertising market alone is worth around $850 million. Right now, delivery apps account for only 1/10 of this, signaling a huge growth potential.
음식을 제공하는 사업자와 음식을 소비하는 소비자 사이의 거리가 이제 짧다는 것도 큰 요인이 되겠죠. 거기서 이제 배달 앱이 또 발전하면서 배달 앱이 배달을 늘리는 배달 분야의 어떤 산업을 성장시키는 그런 것도 있었다고 보고 있습니다. 현재로서는 음식 배달, 뭐 간단한 배달이지만 일종의 하나의 플랫폼화 될 수 있는 면에서 성장 가능성이 있다고 볼 수 있습니다.
Food delivery app operators are branching their services out from food to include flowers, dry clean clothes, parcels, and groceries, and the scope covered is expected to grow even further.
온 디맨드 서비스라고 해가지고 세탁물 수거라든가 뭐 세차 서비스 이런 것들도 이제 배달에 포함이 되고 있고, 전체적으로 이제 배송하고 배달이 융합되면서 새로운 그런 시장으로 확대될 것으로 예상이 되고 있습니다. 그 이후에는 이제 맛집 서비스, 또 추천 서비스 같은 새로운 시장이 형성이 될 수 있고, 기업용 전자식권 같은 좀 더 나가면은 이제 지금 뭐 그 먹방이나 쿡방 같은 거 많이 하는데 그런 이제 레시피나 식자재 같은 유통 그런 시장이 열릴 수가 있고.
With one of the world's highest smartphone penetration rates, Korea's delivery market is growing at a breakneck speed. With more foreign investment and new business opportunities, the industry is expected to evolve rapidly to meet changing consumer demands.
With the expansion of e-commerce platforms, consumers don't like having to spend a lot of time and effort when they are buying things. And it looks like the food delivery is no exception.
Right.
But I hear that there is also a problem with the food delivery apps market.
Right. For one, as we saw in the report, the leading delivery apps have scrapped the controversial commissions they used to charge restaurants, or they're in the process of doing so. But other apps still charge significant rates on every order. And this has led to growing complaints from shop owners, especially the franchise operators, because they often don't have a choice about being listed on the app.
I see. Well, I also see some activities in China. And the Chinese startups also have rolled out some series of food delivery apps. And the Western franchises are struggling because the giants are backing up, such as Tencent and Alibaba, with the similar apps. It looks like they are also changing the landscape of business in China. But what shifts are we seeing in Korea?
Well, for one, major delivery apps, they usually take orders from customers and simply relay them to restaurants. But now some apps actually go beyond this and deliver the food themselves with their own driver network. And this means that customers can order from shops that don't have an existing delivery system. Also, many apps have received funding, including from foreign investors such as Goldman Sachs for Delivery Nation. And it's not just for food, because various retail businesses such as flower shops and grocery stores are also partnering with delivery apps to expand their market.
That's very interesting. So it looks like we might see more than just food at the disposal of our fingertips. Thank you, Ms. Rang, for your report.
My pleasure.
That's all we have on Money Matters. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll bring you plenty of stories as they unfold in Asia, give you a view of the changing landscape of business in the region. I'm Kim Il-sun. Thanks for watching.